SJ. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar.
It's Jay Estongo, everybody. Morgan Taylor, Jaho Jifkados.
Gary 5, Jaho Jifkados.
I haven't been here in a few weeks, so it's nice to be back. We had a sudden change this morning in our program today, and that's to be expected because I did show up today. So we were supposed to have the newly elected seat be Okmulgee Representative Nelson Harjo Sr. Unfortunately, we've been trying to make contact with him this morning and have had no luck. I would like to say that we have made efforts to invite all the newly elected representatives on the show. We had Representative Sandra Golden and Representative Cloud, Galen Cloud, cancel last week, and then with nothing from Representative Leonard Gouge, and then this morning with Representative Nelson Harjo. So.
You know, that's really disappointing. First of all, it leaves us with a huge hole in our program, but it seems like so far the council hasn't been a real show, I can't find a delicate word for it, but
right.
A no-show is a no-show, and wondering whether or not they're, getting a little shy of coming on and talking, answering questions, and addressing the citizenship.
Well, I know as a reporter, a lot of people think we have some kind of agenda towards them, but I opened up those invitations for, their personal, statements and stuff like that about getting into the council. So I just kind of wanted to hear from that. It wasn't for any other reason than to be open and welcoming.
Well, yeah, the idea has always been is to give our representatives a chance to share their agendas, perhaps their feelings about issues, to maybe answer questions from citizens, give a representative form of government a chance to be representative. I mean, we don't. I know I might get barked at for this, but we don't elect those folks just to kind of hide out. I mean, we need to have them out there.
I know that if I would want to do that. I know that I would want to if that was me.
Yeah, I know that politics, particularly Native American politics, can be pretty tough sometimes and kind of nasty. But I think we're growing past the point where we can allow this kind of thing to go on. I've been encouraged in the last couple of years by some of the response that we've got from some council members, and then discouraged at the same time by the response non-response we've gotten from others. Kind of left us hanging, and critical questions facing the tribe that were not being answered. And these are the people who are being elected to run the tribe. I mean.
Yes, and I feel as though it's kind of like you said, discouraging when they don't even want to come and speak on their own platform. So Mr. Harjo, he was elected over multiple time Representative James Jennings. And we know that Galen took Adam Jones' spot, I believe.
Yeah.
And then Sandra was voted over Travis Scott. And then Leonard Gouge took Lucian's spot.
Right. So. Now this represents a pretty drastic, shall we call it, change in the representation in the people who went to who now go to the council meetings and decide the future of our people. Our voters decided to make some changes there and elected these folks to office. And I think it's critical that our voters and citizens hear from from these folks. Now, if they're scared of us putting them on the spot, well, we don't make any promises. That's actually part of our job. And we're very supportive of very positive things, positions, things that make the tribe progress. But we also have to raise some questions. I mean, there have been some leadership situations in, our past that were pretty, let's say it kindly, pretty shady, and things that just did not reflect well. The sort of stuff you hear at the water cooler, people talking, oh, did you hear about what he did,
Yes.
what they did, or something like that. And the problem is getting someone to come forward.
Right.
Someone to sit down and answer the questions that are critical. And, it's tough. So, I guarantee we won't leave any teeth marks, but, we're going to have to ask some tough questions. And it's critical for them to respond. And even if they don't like it, well, that's life. I mean, that's also the public position.
Yes, it's just, and the last few times we've had to deal with this last week and this week have put us in a kind of bind.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a live radio show.
Right.
We can't make any, we make plans
Right.
the week prior, so.
One of the plans we are going to have to resort to today is opening up the phone lines.
Yes.
Now, if you've got a thought, something you care to share about a pressing issue facing our tribe, it doesn't have to be politics. It could be culture. It could be anything else.
ARPA money, whatever.
Yeah, money. Where's the budget? What's
Right.
going on? Give us a call here. We can be reached right now at 918-756-3646.
And we would like to hear from you. There's a lot going on lately. I've been speaking with a lot of different departments on things that they're working on, cultural preservation, construction, just different areas of the tribe that have a lot going on that I know about. I just spoke with Director Steve Emerson, and maybe we can get him on the show soon, and maybe he can talk about some of these projects because they are constantly busy. They do everything from all of these builds to the little arches you see outside to the benches to everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he says that he has a small crew. They stay really busy. They're currently working on finishing the new behavioral health department that is just right down the road from the Altmogi Clinic. It is at that T going towards Morris. It's at the T where the 52 loop or 56 loop.
56.
Mm-hmm. And so he said that will be finishing around the end of March, and that department will be moving in there completely in April. So that's exciting.
Right. So give us a call. We'd like to hear what you have to say, whatever's on your mind. And, this is obviously a forum where you can get some of your gripes off your chest.
Yeah, don't be nervous.
But also, things that you see that are happening that are positive, that are progressive, that are helping people. Even people helping people, the human element. We want to hear about this and how the Mvskoke Creek Nation is doing. Right now, we're involved in a huge battle with our governor. He's just launched this campaign, or he hasn't just launched it. He's been maintaining a campaign that's been monstrous as far as our tribal sovereignty expressions, the right of us, of Mvskoke citizens, to govern our lands, to work with other jurisdictions, stirring up some thoughts and some feelings that really aren't useful. There are a lot of negative stuff going around, particularly now.
Mm-hmm,
Our
yes.
government, our whole country is at this huge divide where it's becoming this hateful thing. People, spreading their disinformation and
It's like the
whatever
Indians
else.
and the Cowboys again, or something.
Yeah. But now we can shoot back.
Yeah. And I don't know, if you don't follow our Facebook page, go ahead and you'll see it's a Mvskoke Media Facebook page. You'll see a story written by Jared Moore as of yesterday that the Mvskoke Nation Attorney General has filed charges against two Native men that were arrested on February 7th during a demonstration in Tulsa where they were advocating for and protesting for Leonard Peltier, I believe is his name.
Right.
And he is an American Indian movement advocate. And there was just, I guess, an altercation between some protesters and a couple officers, and there was 2 Native men that ended up getting felony charges from the Mvskoke Attorney General.
From the videos we've seen regarding that incident, it was not a nice, very, very nice place to be, and I think the officer kind of stuck himself in a situation that just had to lead to escalation. Hope he's okay. Everyone is all right. Law enforcement isn't completely shaken to its foundations, but it didn't make any sense for him to come in there and start an argument, and then then of course these guys had no right to knock him down, and I believe one of them bludgeoned him with a ball stick. I think.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
We'd have to look at that again and verify, but it's sort of like playing stickball,
Yeah.
Whack.
Apparently the video's on YouTube. It was live streamed on Facebook. There's several different streams that it went through, and I guess that's where you get caught, is when you get filmed. So
yeah. And of course, everybody's got a camera in their phone these days, so there's no way we can get away from it. The argument was being made that they were on reservation lands, and I guess Tulsa police really didn't have any authority to do that. But
right.
They were saying that the police officer was saying that they were blocking traffic, and there apparently a vehicle in front of the courthouse where it wasn't supposed to be. So I imagine this is going to be, kind of a major argument. Let's just call it that. And it is strange. It puts us in a position of having our own Mvskoke Creek Nation arrest 2 citizens for that protest.
Yes.
Like Leonard Peltier is in prison, a federal prison, he was convicted in the
80s or something.
Yeah, the deaths of 2 FBI agents, and people have been raising questions about that for years, and then all of a sudden this protest popped up, and our news department was not made aware of that at all. We might have gone down and tried to cover it and find out why they chose to do that, but
kind of seems like a little bit of an old case to be fighting over like that.
We're talking the 70s.
Yeah. I mean, I had not heard of it really.
You probably weren't even born.
No, no, not at all.
But it's been like what, as the French phrase goes, a cause célèbre for many people, saying it was a political prisoner, that the case that the government made was not very sound and was based on some false information and things like that. Anyway, that's what happened then, and it ends up with the tribe now filing charges against these two men. So that's kind of some of the latest. Now, if you've got a thought or something you'd care to share, please give us a call here on the Mvskoke Radio. We don't get the chance to open up our phone lines too many times, but 756-3646. Please, Freedom of the Press Amendment, I think you're covered in sharing your thoughts there. At least we are. So.
Yeah, don't be nervous. Nobody's going to come find you and get you from this phone.
No.
Has nothing to do with the tribe.
No, and if they do, well, we'll be there to cover it.
Yeah, we'll help you out.
Now, there are all sorts of things that have been happening lately. Of course, Governor Stitt and his campaign and his bid for re-election, and 3 major tribes here have come out and saying, nope, we're not going to do that. Of course, our own Mvskoke Nation, the Cherokee Nation, and...
we have Osage Nation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just drew an
Cherokee.
old man blank there. And this is could be a huge voting bloc. Now, these tribes have jurisdictions here in the Tulsa area. And,
all 3 of them, yeah.
I understand from one thing that I looked at that is 400,000 possible votes. Now, everyone was to vote. That's citizens, but we can see that nobody turns up fully for 100% for elections.
No, but hopefully we can encourage enough Native Americans to put their vote in.
Yeah.
Tell your cousins, tell your aunties.
Yeah, it's so important, and, become involved in the process. And, we do our best to make sure that information about our candidates who aren't here today is put out there, and folks understand their positions on many of the issues and the topics that affect us. I think we're still evolving from a time when people voted strictly for their kinfolk. And, I don't want to discourage anyone or disparage anyone, but we've got to look at a time when we need to choose the people who are going to be best for our tribe.
Right. I think that, the kind of Native American culture is very family oriented, and so that can result in some of those things.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to understand, like, great grandpa Chito Harjo is not going to be the best, representation for your area. Or are they going to help you if you need help? Are they going to be your voice to the council?
Right. I think in taking that to another level, that same issue, people say, well, this guy spoke Mvskoke, so let's vote for him.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that he's going to be a good candidate, a good leader. It's wonderful that they have that skill, that talent, that blessing.
Yeah, and maybe that talent and blessing that they have and that they do in their regular work is something that they could have kept doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've had enough situations where maybe somebody was lying to you in your own language. That doesn't help us at all. But okay, we're throwing some of this hot stuff out there, and hope that people will be encouraged to come out and participate. Okay, one more time. Give us a call. We'd kind of like to know what folks are thinking out there. 756-3646. If you disagree with what you've heard so far, give us a call and tell us.
Yeah, and we don't really want to paint a bad picture of anybody. We got good people on our council, and then, there's good and bad everywhere. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one thing I was looking forward to, is hearing these new voices on the council. It's like,
I really was too, especially the ones that had not ever been on council. I know that, like, Miss Golden, she is the Mvskoke County, I believe, district representative now, and I know that she had been on council previously, but the others, I don't think they had, and so I was really looking forward to hearing from them and what they kind of plan to do, or what they stand for, just whatever.
Exactly.
Just getting to know them was my interest. I think that's important. Transparency.
Yeah, that's a word that gets tossed around a lot. But in my career, it's always been important to me to occasionally put somebody on the spot and see how they respond, the information they share in that situation, and where they go from there, and kind of follow up and watch. It's critical that we know what's going on, and people can judge these folks by their voices sometimes.
Yeah.
One thing that I've always maintained in my career in this particular field of broadcast is sometimes it's not quite as important as what they say, but it's important as how they say it.
Right. That tone is everything.
Exactly.
Tone is everything. That's why, you'll be texting your friend or something, and they'll take something wrong, and then you're like, have to call them and be like, my bad, I didn't mean that like that. I was really trying to say it this way.
Yeah.
So I think tone is a lot of behind your intention of something. And so, like, I have this friend, and he was telling me, he's like, I know when I get you on the spot because you look away from me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, now I'm caught. Now I'm caught. I don't know what to say. I didn't know what to say first, but and I know you can't see that over radio, but then how it comes out after that is also a reaction,
Sure. Let's get some reaction here. Give us a call. We're interested in hearing from folks. It's 918-756-3646 here at the Brew, and let's hear. Maybe some of our missing council members will call.
Yeah, feel free to make that call. Maybe you can put us on the spot, and we'll answer some questions for you. So what have you been working on lately, Gary?
Well, we've just come through a period where we I've been trying to make sure that Mvskoke radio gets on the air, and it's been real difficult, of course, through this bad weather and the COVID and other things that have been demanding people's time. So our schedule has been a little ridiculous. Let's call it that. But I think we've had some good spots here. We just had finished and aired a nice discussion with Joy Harjo.
Yeah.
She has been named the artist in residence at the new Bob Dylan Center in downtown Tulsa. And I was really curious, like, how do you make that connection? You know, what is she being asked to do? What is she working on these days? Is she going to get to jam with Bob Dylan? You know? Which she said probably not. But that was an interesting discussion in talking about, her artistic work. She's got new material coming out that she says has been affected by the recent political situations, things like that. That's primarily what I've been working on, and a couple of ideas that are more entertaining in substance, I think. A couple of, that's what we try to do with this program, is to make it informative but also entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, that's important. I really appreciate Joy Harjo and her creative mind and everything that she does, and I hope she has the opportunity to inspire lots of youth, lots of people. Well,
that's a project she's working on now, is teaching a course actually on the creativity part of the poetic world. Not necessarily poems, but getting people to write and overcome the roadblocks.
Yeah, and as a writer personally, there's so many. Sometimes you lose inspiration, sometimes you lose motivation, sometimes you're staring at a paper for days. Well, how do I even start?
Yeah. Just kind of an aside for that statement there is, when I've hit that situation over my career, I said, well, let's not worry about the start. Let's just jump to the middle of the story and write that part. At least that part is done.
Right.
And then maybe somewhere along the line you'll get the inspiration for the opening segments. So you don't necessarily have to write a story from start to finish.
Right,
In other words, you can even do the finish sometimes, which I've done. Like, oh, this is really great. Let's put this in. And then from that, you see how to build the rest of the story. So that's...
And sometimes I'll be really creative when I'm just walking, like I'm at the mall, and I'll just think of stuff like, word play, and I'm like, I want to use that, and then that'll go away. And I'm like, snap. Like, I need to carry a notebook with me at all times, honestly.
Yeah, now figure out a little tape recorder or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Just pull it out and say that. But, man, yeah, it's hard for me. I feel like my hands are always full. I got 2 kids. My daughter, she just kind of went through that thing with her vaccine. We've been through COVID, stomach bug the last 2 months. I'm ready for these the sickly season to be over.
That might be an interesting story if you wanted to write that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we had everything.
Mother coping with COVID. Yeah.
We had it all. And the vaccine thing, she didn't get a COVID vaccine or anything. My daughter's 1. She had her 1-year-old shots, and she just had a really bad reaction to the...
Ouch.
They think the MMR shot, because they told me at the ER that one had been, like, recently revised or something like that. And so... just be aware. I would tell everybody to be aware of that, because it was scary.
Yeah. We've tried to be as positive as we can about people becoming vaccinated, but we cannot forget there are some challenges there. There are, like your daughter. I mean, some people will react badly and others won't. We understand that. We will admit it, so to speak.
Yes, and I am glad she got that shot. The MMR is like the measles, mumps, and rubella, so she needs it.
Right.
But they said that can happen. It's very rare. Some kids do get a rash, but her case was a little bit more rare. And there's precautions that we probably could have taken, but we didn't know that was going to happen. So.
Well, it's important now, with everyone saying now that younger children can be vaccinated.
Right.
So, we understand, a parent's perhaps reluctance to participate, but all in all, if you look at the numbers, they're really bad as far as people being in the hospital and dying. They were not vaccinated.
Yeah, and when my kids are of age, I want them to get, I still want my daughter to get every vaccine that is available, and my son as well. I didn't experience that with him when he was 1. He's 4 now, and so when he's 5, he'll get the COVID vaccine.
Well, yeah, we understand there are probably some people with the fur standing up on the back of their neck when in this discussion, but that's there. Anyway, if you want, we've got some time here, so give us a call. Anything else on the tribe's agenda that you want to talk about, or perhaps you've got a project coming up in the near future? We're looking wild onion season right in the face.
So excited.
Yes.
My favorite, maybe some of my favorite dishes, native traditional dishes, are wild onion. But bring a piece of gum with you. Maybe some perfume. You're going to need it afterwards.
Yeah, or just don't talk to anybody closely. Yeah. But, we are open. There are a lot of things going on. Of course, before long, ceremonial season will be here.
Yep.
What are the questions? Are we going to have a festival this year?
We haven't had one, it seems like, in some years now. And that's very, I feel like, out of character for the tribe.
But I know, God.
I'm glad that everybody has felt safe with those decisions.
Yeah, I understand and back them, but it doesn't take away the fact that you just really missed that festival.
Yeah, Native Americans gather. They gather. They always have, and that's what they do. There's always old women talking, grandpas sitting there drinking coffee, kids running around, parents chasing them, type of stuff. So,
teen boys chasing teen girls.
Yes.
Yeah.
They go off and they have their own conversations.
Did you get chased?
You know what? My grandparents kept me pretty close.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's good.
Especially at the grounds, they would be like, "I need to see you at all times. You better be over there dancing, because if I don't see you dancing, then I'm coming to look for you."
And you better hope I don't find you.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, if you've gotten experiences there you'd care to share, please. Everything we're saying is kind of hard-edged at the moment, but we got lots of room for the fun stuff too about being Mvskoke. We have, of course, many things facing our tribe. Of course, the virus, and then the governor, and then the Supreme Court possibly looking at the McGirt decision again. Has the news coverage of some of these events been fair, do you think? We've looked at it, and I personally have been a bit uncomfortable about what I've seen and heard from some of the major news outlets.
Same here. I feel like for some news outlets that it's pretty biased. And as a reporter, you don't want to be that way.
Yeah, like we heard practically nothing on the Peltier demonstration, except the police officer got knocked down and injured. We heard nothing about that. What's going on here? A little bit about Union High School changing to the Red Hawks. That's good. That's positive, I think. That's something that should keep people happy, I think.
I hope so. I hope that, all these, I hope these changes are positive. Like, I get kind of weary of people trying to make them negative when they don't have to be.
No, there are times when we see these changes happening when there's a knee-jerk reaction, saying, "Well, that's whatever excuse or argument they want to make." But then when you think about it, happening in the future for future kids, that's pretty good actually. You don't have to worry about it. The worst thing I ever heard about was a school in Texas that had a native mascot, and one of these kids that put on the big paper mache head, and it was, a native man. The name of that mascot was Chief Ugly.
Oh, my Lord.
That is absolutely the worst. And I'm thinking, how can people think about that, support something that's so negative and hateful, things like that.
Some people are just mean.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
plain
I have to
mean.
admit it,
Yeah.
and they get off on it. It's like,
Yes.
I was mean, and I put this down, or I spray painted this thing, or I set fire to that, or, and got in a fight with these kids, and we beat them up. We don't need that. I mean, my gosh. There's so many things that are wonderful and positive and going on. Pat, earlier this year we saw the opening of the First Americans Museum down in Oklahoma City.
Didn't you go to that?
Oh yeah, I was there covering it, and I was just blown away by the wonderful collection they had assembled. It's not just Indian goods and things like that, but they tackled some issues too. Like, this was a Trail of Tears, folks. Let's, get used to it now. This was what happened when, tribes and the state made a deal on whatever else, and perhaps the effect of the oil industry on some tribes. Some people got real rich, others are still,
Right.
still hurting.
We can
And-
see, like, a lot of Native American history being taken out of school books.
Yeah,
And I don't think, I really appreciate those that are still trying to promote that. And so I personally can't wait to take my kids to the First Americans Museum. Unfortunately, they don't understand a lot right now being so little, but I'll be very
'em time.
happy. Yeah.
Give them time. One of the first things that really impressed me was an exhibit on the negative images. And I was kind of surprised to say, you guys put this in there,
Yeah.
but all this wonderful stuff, here's the negative kind of thing. But it wasn't just a slam job. It was a really intense examination of some of the things that have been there. Of course, the R-skins in Disneyland on the Potomac, and then other ball teams that had native mascots or whatever else imagery. And it made no judgments. It just put them out there and said, decide for yourself. And then other things like just gorgeous exhibits of native dance regalia. Like
Yeah.
everything from the fancy dancers down through the straight dancers and tribes that don't wear bustles and things
Yeah.
like that. Like stomp dancing.
I just
things
need
like
to take a trip up there myself one day then and just look at it and just, I would love to see it. I love museums. I love stuff like that. I love Native American history. Now they dress pretty casual, so sometimes I wish we still had some of that today, so I'd love to see it. And if you don't know where that is, that's in Oklahoma City. Do you know the address, Gary?
Not off the top of my head, but if you're going in from either I-40 or I-35, there are sign and markers pointing you in the right direction, so you can find it. And they chose that spot, actually saved it from being a total wasteland, reclaimed most of it, cleaned out the old oil wells and things like that, and refurbished the countryside and built this gorgeous museum, and brought that land back from what looked like would have been desolation, and made it a source of pride. And the local dignitaries, Oklahoma City mayor and people like that, were all there to support them. Governor Stitt was not. One of
Surprise.
one of the most positive things that's happened with Native people in the state, and he wasn't there. I didn't hear much. And then Native folks from all over the nation were there, and just thinking this is a glorious addition.
Native people gather in celebrations like that. That is just something that we do, and that's something I've always loved about it.
Yeah. Well, we're at the point where let's take a short pause here and see what's happening, and we'll see what else we might have to do to ad-lib another Mvskoke radio program. So please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio on 106.3 and 1240 AM, The Brew.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Hear that? That's the sound of hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
It's Jay, everyone. We are back, and we are talking about a hot topic right now. That's a hot topic every time this year, taxes. Gary, do you want to introduce your guest?
Let's see. Whoops, I don't have that note. Okay, let's just have them introduce themselves. Hi, guys. Welcome to Do It Yourself Radio.
Luckily for me, this is my third year doing this interview. My name is Zachariah Harjo. I am the Secretary, or I am not the Secretary of the Nation. I work with the Secretary of the Nation in Commerce as the site coordinator for the VITA program, as well as the self-governance coordinator for all of the compacted funding that the nation receives from DOI. This is my third year leading the tax program, and this is probably the most advanced it's ever been. We have grant funding for the first time from the VITA TCE program, and I believe we're the third tribe after the Chickasaw Nation and Cherokee Nation to receive a VITA grant to support our program this year. And my colleague, Jason Harrison, I'll let him introduce himself, but yeah, he works with me in the Secretary's office.
Hi, my name is Jason Harrison. I'm the Economic Development Specialist from Mvskoke Nation, and I'm currently helping out with the VITA program. And we actually started this yesterday, so it's been a great response. We got quite a few people coming out yesterday.
The most wonderful time of the year is not Christmas, it's tax time.
Something like that.
Yeah, okay, let's hear them sing about that one. We've all been through this situation, where you got to pay the piper. We've heard of things that, for me, were rather confusing, changes in the system, or perhaps exemptions, what you might owe, what you might not owe, ways to perhaps deal with it. Are there new things here in the situation here that people should know about?
Unfortunately, the short answer to that question is no, and the long answer to that question is no matter how we have explained it, it's still going to be confusing for the most part to a lot of people. But the court ruling, the McGirt ruling itself, and how the nation interprets it is different than how the state of Oklahoma interprets it, and particularly the governor's administration and the Oklahoma Tax Commission. Essentially, they haven't, despite the ruling reaffirming the reservation status, they haven't changed the rules for qualifying for the tribal income tax exemption even after McGirt. So essentially, if you qualified for the exemption prior to McGirt, you're going to be the only people that qualify for it after.
Well, let's stop right there, and maybe you guys can explain what that is.
Sure.
I hear an exemption, tribal income, and I get a little tribal income here, a little, and if there's an exemption available, I'm darn sure interested in hearing about it and what it is, who qualifies. So let's tackle that one.
Yeah, and like I said, there's always short and long answers to each of that. But the short answer is the state requires officially 3 forms of verification to see that, or to apply for the exemption. And the first one is that you're a tribal member of one of the 5 tribes, and you have to be a tribal member on the reservation that you reside and work in. So, for instance, a Cherokee Nation resident living within the Mvskoke Nation couldn't qualify for the tribal income tax exemption. But in theory, all of the 5 tribes, the tribal members, if they live within their own reservation, that's the first one. They have to provide an active membership card. And then, the first one is providing active membership with one of the 5 tribes. The second one is demonstrating that your residence is within the reservation territory of the tribe you're enrolled in. And the third one is your income has to be derived from within Indian country. That meaning a lot of people work for the tribal government, or they might work for a tribally owned business, or if they're a citizen that has their own business, and they themselves are a tribal member, that constitutes as Indian country.
Do you have to own your home to be able to do that, or?
So this is the most important thing, and those are the three things that the state has sent out letters saying that's the information, the criteria to qualify for it. The fourth one that they're not saying.
Before we get on to 4, let's back up to 3 again. Maybe you could run over that one again.
Yeah, so your income has to be derived from within Indian country.
Okay.
So both within the reservation territory, and also it has to come from a tribally sourced, a tribal source essentially. So if you're a government employee, if you work for River Spirit, or like I said, if you're a tribal member and you own your own business. But like I said, there's a fourth requirement that they don't really mention, and that's the biggest and probably most important one, and that it's that you have to live on trust or restricted property. And typically, people that live on trust, they already are aware of it because they're probably the descendant of their direct ancestor that qualified for the allotment. And I know, for instance, my grandma maintains land in Eufaula, and if I lived down in Eufaula, I might potentially qualify for that exemption, but I don't. And having the land still, the title still be in trust is a pretty complicated and I guess more or less well-known fact. I mean, if anyone has any questions, if their land is in trust, they can always reach out to the Realty Department, because the nation's Realty Department keeps a record of all of the allotments that are still in trust as well as restricted. And the reason for the exemption applying on those trust land is because on trust property or restricted property, the nation alone has jurisdiction to levy taxes. The state has never had jurisdiction to levy personal income tax on that, and that was regardless before or after the McGirt ruling. And essentially, like I said earlier, they're just following the pre-McGirt ruling rules that they used to qualify taxpayers for the exemption. Like I said, it's pretty convoluted, and that's even explaining it over and over again for 2 years. It still sounds like a mouthful.
I'm curious as if the state has had a history of collecting taxes on that land, those types of land issues, like.
So I am also in law school, fortunately and unfortunately for me, not to be an attorney, but there's a number of existing court cases and court precedents and litigation involving Indian country and taxation in Oklahoma, and based on 1993 ruling with the Sac and Fox Nation, it gives the nation the legal opinion that after the McGirt ruling, we should be exempt from state income tax. But like I said, the state doesn't agree with that, and the reason for that is because they strictly say that McGirt applies only to criminal jurisdiction, whereas taxation is a civil jurisdiction matter. And at the moment, unfortunately, despite, I want to say I read an article that there was over 5,000 rejected requests for exemptions within the past, I think, 6 months from the Oklahoma Tax Commission. And unfortunately, at this point, there isn't enough, a collective, I don't know if it's evidence, but a collective need for a class action lawsuit that would really kind of force both the tribe and the state to come together and work out what exactly the taxation should or could be. But yeah.
Something to add? I see you nodding your head.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with
okay.
Zach.
I just didn't want you to feel left out there. Let me throw a what if at you here, and perhaps you'll find other people in the same situation and might make things a little clearer. Now, of course, I am a citizen of the Mvskoke Nation, proud citizen. I live in Glenpoe and own a home there, and I work for the tribe. But I do not live on trust land, I guess. Yep. So that would say, nope, sorry, you just missed out.
That's not entirely how we will operate. Like I said, because the tribe interprets the court ruling in favor of tribal members, the biggest thing is you have to qualify for our program based on income. If you're a tribal member, you want us to file it as though it's for exemption, we would fully inform you that based on the criteria that we see, you're most likely going to get rejected. And you can appeal it, of course, and then the nation has also contracted with an attorney out of McAllister for those citizens that do choose that route and might need some legal support after the fact that if their return does get rejected or the exemption does get rejected, we've been able to put them in contact with the attorney for further guidance. But it would be up to the citizen. I mean, like every tax return is a legal filing based on your Social Security number, and it's ultimately up to the taxpayer to determine what they want to do. We will, like I said, we'll inform the taxpayer if they want to file for the McGirt exemption, if we believe that they will be approved for it or not, based on the information they provided for us. But if they're dead set, like I said, if you wanted to come in and you wanted to file for that exemption, we'd prepare it. But it would be on the taxpayer to deal with any of the potential backlash. And like I said, we could refer you to the attorney that the nation has contracted with.
Do you know what potential backlash could be? Just like time limit.
From what we've seen, I know initially in 2020, the Oklahoma Tax Commission had issued refunds to a number of citizens, not just Mvskoke citizens, but Chickasaw, Cherokee as well. And starting in February of 2021, I believe the Oklahoma Tax Commission started sending new letters out saying that even though we had issued refunds, we later determined that you didn't qualify for it and you owe all of the money back plus plus interest and penalties. And then you could appeal it, and of course you could appeal it, but they also, if you decide to appeal it and you lose, which most of these people are, that's an additional penalty. And the longer you, appeal it, then, I'm getting lost up. The longer that you appeal it, the more essentially you're accruing
penalties and stuff like that all the time. Well, that sounds scary. It's like scaring you out of it from the jump. Like don't do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you have a good case, I guess, so what are some of the things that you guys help with? What's the income guideline you guys work with?
Yeah. So the basic guidelines for the program. So essentially, we are a VITA site program. So we work with the IRS, and we're a partner to the IRS on the local level. And we actually are going to partner with OSUIT to do an outreach day. But the basic qualifications for this program are you have to make $58,000 or less, and it says household income, but that really just means like if, for instance, like if two parents live in the same house and they're filing the same return, their income has to be less than $58,000. But say they have an adult child that lives with them as well, and they're filing their own return, it wouldn't be everyone's income together. It would just be, the income that's going on one return has to be less than $58,000. So if anyone has questions about the income limits, they can always call us, and we can go through it. And if we'll determine over the phone if they'll meet those guidelines or not. That being said, we do have an online electronic link file where we can send that out to citizens, or it's open to any area resident, not just tribal members. But that income guideline is up to $72,000, but you have to self-prepare it. And of course, they can always call the program for any questions and things like that. But we wouldn't be able to prepare it on site the way we would if they made under $58,000.
Jason, you've been sitting there kind of quietly. We want to get you into our conversation here. As the economic development specialist, what sort of information would you be sharing with taxpayers? I mean, what kind of things would you want to point out that they should be doing?
Well, I'm actually one of the preparers, and so I'm visiting the citizens and
boots on the ground.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm kind of just hand to hand with Zach here. But currently, some of the projects that we're working on through the nation is we're participating in Oklahoma Economic Impact Report through all tribes. That's going to be all Oklahoma tribes, and we're developing how our impact is affecting the state of Oklahoma. And a couple other projects that we're working on is through our Loop Square Ranch. We're trying to develop some projects there currently, but like I said, everything's in development right now. So
awesome. Yeah, we're me and Liz, the managing editor, are doing a story with Indian Country Today over exactly what you're talking about. So maybe we can hook up with you soon. Gary, did you have a question?
Well, mostly the season rolls around, of course, every year. And right now we're in the early part of the tax preparation season, filing. What do you expect the response from our citizens and people who would qualify for the program? Is it pretty light now, and will it pick up and get heavier, and then perhaps make your ability to serve them a little slower just because of the load? I mean, how's it look?
That is hard to say at the moment because the past 2 years have been marred by the pandemic, of course. So the reality is that I know there's plenty of people that need to file returns, and not just current year, but previous year returns. And that's one of the other benefits of our program. We can go back to 2019. So if you have previous year tax returns you need help with, we can definitely file those. There is a statute of limitations on that. We can't do beyond 3 years, but we can do certainly the most recent 3 years. But I know there's a lot of people that need to file returns. It's just the accessibility of them being able to get in to the program location and whatnot is still a barrier, and we're trying to kind of break some of those barriers down by getting more out into the community this year, since the tribal government is open and we're not on some sort of COVID lockdown, at least not at the moment. Last year we conducted outreach trips to 3 community centers, and given that we do have a grant funding as well as more support staff this year, we're looking to host as many outreach trips as we get feedback necessary. So we're looking to do much more, and like I said, we're also looking to partner with OSUIT to bring in probably a larger non-native taxpayer clientele basis. So I think we should have a much higher turnout this year than we've had in years past, but like I said, it's hard to say with the pandemic and everything.
Now, Jason, another question aimed at you as one of the folks who have to help people right there. In your experience, do tribal members ever kind of understand the tax matrix that we're having to deal with? I mean, most American citizens, you fill out the forms, you turn them in, and that's done. Now, is there something about being a Native American person with perhaps restricted lands or some other complication that you've seen? Is it harder for us? And by the way, for anyone who's asking this question, yes, Native Americans do pay taxes. Okay, believe me, I've been giving Uncle Sam a big chunk of mine for a long time. But is there something there that makes Native cases special or perhaps harder?
Well, yesterday was actually our first day preparing the taxes, so I haven't seen anything come up like out of the ordinary. It was great having people brought in exactly what they needed.
Oh,
so
that's great.
Yeah, brought in everything that we needed. There's like an intake quality sheet that everybody will need to fill out. Takes a few minutes to do that, and we can usually process them in less than an hour.
Hey.
So I was also going to preface this that Jason is brand new, so he just completed his first returns yesterday. So and no, there really isn't any difference between a tribal member filing a return and then any other standard U.S. citizen. The only difference being is if they know their lands in trust, they may or may not be exempt from the state income tax. But certainly, we all pay federal income tax.
So, sorry for putting you on the spot, Jason, but that's what we get paid to do. Now, if someone was interested in using your service, what sort of documents or whatever else would they need to bring in to get the return processed?
So the first thing that we need to do is call and make an appointment, of course. We're at this point, because the community center still has restrictions based on how many people can go in and out for COVID, we're keeping it to one appointment every 30 minutes. So that's the first step. Then the documents that you'll actually need to bring, we have repeat customers and have since the program opened, but unfortunately it's a requirement from the IRS that we have to verify their photo ID as well as their copy of your Social Security card every year. So those are going to be the first 2 documents. If it's a single person filing a return, they'll need to bring a copy of their driver's license, tribal ID, and then it's either or. So if you don't have a driver's license, you can use a tribal ID. But we need some form of photo ID, and then a copy of their Social Security card. And then after that, it's just all the standard income information that they receive, like W-2s, 1099s, if they have passive income, like investment income, things like that. or if they've paid student loans, those all have tax interest statements, or year-end statements, I should say, that they'll typically need to bring in. So that's most of the general documents. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask a question on behalf of my partner here. Now, she has a couple of children, and what should she be turning in to make sure that everyone is covered there or included, or whatever possible exemptions are necessary?
I forgot to include that. So, for single people, like I said, it's just photo ID, social security card, and income information. For people with dependents, or if you have a spouse, it's the same thing. So for a married couple, both spouses would need a copy of their photo IDs and copy of their social security cards. And then for dependents, we just need a copy of their social security cards to verify that their name and everything matches up on the tax return as it's listed on the social security card.
And I will say this, and for some reason, like a lot of my friends didn't know this, if you pay daycare, you can claim that. So that's good to know.
Yep. Because of the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act last year, it included additional, child care tax credits. And so some people chose to receive those additional payments early, and they got distributions throughout the latter part of 2021, but they still qualify for the other half of it, the normal half of it, essentially, for the standard filing tax year. Or tax filing year. So there's a lot of things like that, but you can always typically recapture if you missed out on a payment, or if you didn't even, if a lot of people file returns because they didn't get the economic impact payment from the federal government or from the IRS. And the easiest way to actually capture those payments or any tax credit you might have missed is to file a return. So if you think you missed out on something last year, there's a good likelihood that whatever credits you qualified for, you could still get all the money that you should have gotten last year this year.
You mentioned the ARPA payments. Are those taxable? I mean, I received one not too long ago, and actually they looked into my files and said, "Hey, you missed one," and they included that. So I got a real nice Christmas coming up. So
they are not taxable.
They are not. Okay.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because of the way the nation set up the program. I know there was a lot of frustration with the fact that you had to apply for it, but because we did set it up that way, applying for it and on a needs basis, whether it was because of COVID or for financial reasons, allows it to be considered as grant funding, essentially. So it's untaxable income. There are situations where tribes did do distributions to their tribal members, and if they didn't do it as a grant, it could be taxable income. And those tribes are usually tribes that do per cap payments. Those might be taxable. It really depends. But for our specific, the way we structured it, no, it is not taxable.
Okay, well, 2,000 Mados to the Mvskoke Creek Nation certainly helped me out and took a nice little response. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left. Now, if someone is interested in finding out more about this program or participating and putting you guys to work, how do they do that?
They can reach out to, let's see, we have 2 numbers for the office, and you should be able to reach any number of the people that can help you get scheduled with an appointment. The 2 main numbers there are going to be 918-549-2607 and then 918-549-2767. So like I said, if you have any questions, you can give us a call, and we can either get you set up with an appointment or provide some advice or information about your particular situation. And then also, you can also find our program information online. If you go to the MvskokeNation.com and go to the Commerce website or Commerce web page, we also have information on there. And then the online link for people that want to self-prepare and they make under $72,000 is also on the Commerce web page. And today, actually, we'll be going around town and posting the flyers that we had developed with our Office of Public Relations. So we'll be going around. And so if you see a flyer, by all means, get the information down, share it with everyone. Like I said, it's open to all area residents. It's not a tribal specific program, though we do help, with tribal specific issues related to McGirt.
Right. Okay. Well, on that flyer, we're seeing free tax return service, repair McGirt related exemption, technical assistance available. That is wonderful, and hopefully, let me ask you this one. As the tax deadline gets closer, do you get busier?
There's usually a lull,
Okay.
but yeah, we will certainly get busier towards the end.
People coming in begging and crying, so you got to help me.
Get your stuff together by April 15th, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks for joining us here on Mvskoke Radio. On behalf of myself, Gary Fife.
And Morgan Taylor, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just got a few seconds here, Gary, so have you filed yet?
No, I'm still digging out my documents.
Well, you better get it together, Gary.
Okay, go through my mail again and say, oh, I didn't throw that away, did I? You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. But